Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be teaching you all loops in Java. First of all, let's make a class inside our console. We'll say src new and select Java class. And we'll give it a name. We'll call it loops. And inside the loops class, let's have our main method. We say psvm and press tab. And that's it. We made a main method inside our loops class. Now let's begin the lesson. Today I will be teaching all about loops in Java. Loops can execute a block of code as long as a specified condition is reached. Loops are handy because they save time, reduce errors, and they make code readable. Now I will teach you some of the loops in Java. First of all, let's remove this sentence, and inside we'll have our first example. Alright, now let's learn one of the loops in Java. The first loop we are going to understand is the while loop. The while loop starts with a while of lowercase and not uppercase letters, and it has a condition inside it, and if the condition is true, a code block is executed which is placed inside our while loop. It's similar to if else, but it's very handy when it comes to coding because it relaxes our code. The while condition checks, and if the while condition is true, our code block inside the while loop is executed. That's how the while loop executes. Now we'll have an example for the while loop. We'll have an int variable named int v which is equal to 0, and we'll use the while loop now. Let's check if v is lesser than 5 and have an s out printing v, and we will increment v. Let's run this and check the output. Alright, we got our output. The output is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This happened because this printed v till v is lesser than 5. After that the code block stopped, and when until v is not lesser than 5, the code block will iterate because of the increment operator used on v. That's what happened inside this code. It's a very simple code, and I hope you understood the theory behind it. Let's have another example. Now we will have v lesser than 10 and run this code. And we got the output. The output printed 0 to 9. In this case, until v is lesser than 10, all the outputs get printed in the console. All the output v's get printed in the console till v is lesser than 10. After that, this loop will stop. That's what happened inside this code example. And we can even give it v decrement. Let's check the output if we decrement v. As you can see, it's running continuously till some value comes. This happened because the increment will work until the loop will continue until it's lesser than 10. We haven't given a clear number for that code to stop, so this will print continuously and will not stop at all. Now let's make v lesser than 10 and let's see the output for this code. Alright, we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 printed. This happened because in this code the while loop will run till v is actually lesser than 10. After that, this code will stop. The increment will also stop after it becomes not equals to lesser than 10. We can decrement v also and check our output. When we decrement v, we get a continuous loop running until it doesn't end. That's what happens when we decrement our v value through the while loop. There won't be an end. This will take till minus infinity. That's what happens inside this code. Well, now let's check this the other way around. We'll check if v is greater than 10 and see the output. Well, this printed nothing. That means this loop won't work because the condition given is false. This loop will work if the condition is true always, or else it won't be working. That's what happens in the while loop. You can give many conditions inside the while loop and iterate or decrement the code and let it loop till there's no end, or if there's an end. That's how the while loop works in Java. We'll see another example. We'll check if v is greater than 10 and v is greater than 10 or v lesser than 10. Now what do you think will be the output? Let's check it out. This time it worked. This happened because the loop will continue because either one of these statements is true. Because v lesser than 10 is equals to true, this code ran. And we saw the minus infinity loop running in our console. Let's remove this code and we'll check if v is increment. Now let's place our code and check it out. Okay, we got our answer 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 printed. This happened because one of the statements v greater than 10 or v lesser than 10 was right. So in this case v lesser than 10 was the right statement. That's why this code worked. You can use many conditions inside this while loop and increment, decrement or do many things inside the code block. So that's it for while loop. Let's move on to another coding structure in Java. Now let's learn about the do-while loop in Java. The do-while loop is a variant of the while loop. This loop will execute the code block once before checking if the condition is true. Then it will repeat the loop as long as the condition is true. That's what happens in the do-while loop in Java. Now let's have an example to check this lesson. Let's have a do-while loop printed inside our main method. Here I have shown you the coding structure of a do-while loop. A do-while loop will execute the code block at least once before checking the condition. That's how the do-while loop works in Java. We have a do which is in lowercase letters and not uppercase letters, and a while with lowercase letters and not uppercase letters, and we have a condition inside our while loop. It's similar to the while loop, but it's reversed here inside our code block. Now we'll have a right example of the do-while loop inside our main class. We'll have a int y which is equals to 0, do, and inside we'll say s out y, and we'll increment y, and we'll check a while where y is lesser than 10 and now let's run this and check the output. Alright, we got our output. We got 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 printed in the console. It's similar to the while loop but is somewhat different when we look at it. Let's see the difference now. Now let's give this a false while condition before executing the code. We'll say y greater than 10 and run this code. What do you think will be the output? Let's check it out. We got 0. Something got printed without the condition being true. In this, we must understand that the do-while loop prints the statement at least once before executing the code block. That's what happened inside this code. 0 got printed but the increment didn't work because the while greater than 10 condition was false. That's how the do-while loop works in Java. It's a very complex situation when compared with the while loop. Now let's use a OR operator inside our while loop. We say while greater than 10 or y lesser than 10 and run this code and check the output. As you can see here, we got our value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 printed. This happened because in this time one of the conditions worked in the while loop. Y greater than 10 didn't work, but y lesser than 10 worked because it is a truth statement. That's why this code block executed. So in the do while loop, the code block executed and it checked the condition and executed the other remaining code parts in the code block. That's what happened inside the do while loop. Now let's have our y increment cut and pasted before the x out and check our answer for this code. Whoa, this time we got 10 even as the output. 1 to 10 was printed. That's because we incremented our y before the SOUT statement. That's why we got even 10 printed inside our console. You must not forget to increment the variable used, otherwise the code will work till minus infinity if we use a decrement for our variable. You must always remember that while working with the while loop and the do while loop. And that's it for today's lesson. I'll come back to you with another lesson in another day. Until then, bye guys, and please take care.